Thanks to the electronic revolution in world markets, it's all too often impossible to follow the money trail. Every second, $500,000 moves across this floor. That's 10 to 12 billion dollars a day. The problem is that once money becomes a blip on a computer screen, no one can tell if it's dirty or clean. Money spins around the globe non-stop, day and night, wired from bank to bank to serve the global marketplace, the same global marketplace where the laundryman layers his money. He immerses it into a huge sea of legitimate business, sends it in and out of shell companies and crisscrossing borders. Done properly, it is virtually impossible to follow. Done properly, it is virtually impossible to detect.
Details in The Merger, a book exposing the new face of the mob. Joining us now, Jeffrey Robinson, author of The Merger. He's with us from our Washington newsroom. Jeffrey, good to see you.
Great to see you.
This book, a tale of all the different big crime families really around the world and how they've interconnected using the World Wide Web, even a submarine.
Well, what you have to understand is that these criminal organizations, the Italian mafia, the Russian mafia, the Colombian cartels, the Mexican drug cartels, like we just saw in that marijuana story, Asian gangs, Yakuza in Japan, or the Triad societies in China, Hell's Angels, motorcycle gang, they've all interconnected because they're huge businesses, and they're simply doing what the Harvard School of Business says all multinational corporations should do, which is form joint ventures and strategic alliances. It's all about money, and this is the way they make even more of it.
They're merging much like the corporate mergers we're seeing in the legal world these days, and some of their numbers are even bigger.
It's exactly right. Listen, in 1994, the Cali cartel had profits 3 times greater than General Motors. I mean, these are huge industries. I'll give you a perfect example of what happens. Cali decides they want to open up the European market, just like any business looking for a new market. They turn to their Italian partners, it's traditional Italian mafia, and they say, you handle the cocaine, just send us the money. And the Italians say, no, we're not going to send you money. What we're going to do is we're going to send you heroin, because we've got a Turkish heroin connection. So the Cali mob sends cocaine to Italy for Europe. The Italian mob sends heroin to Colombia, except the Colombians have no experience with heroin. It's not their crop. So they move the heroin onto the Mexican cartels to be heading north into the United States, because the Mexicans understand that. In the meantime, the Italians go to the Russians and say, look, you guys can distribute for us in Eastern Europe, so we're going to send you cocaine. All you have to do is send us money. And the Russians say, well, we're not actually going to send you money. We're going to send you guys fissile materials, you know, uranium things that go tick, tick, tick on Geiger counters and blow up. So you've now got the Russians dealing cocaine in Eastern Europe. You've got the Mexican cartels dealing heroin in the United States. You've got the Colombians in the middle of this whole thing, and the Italians running through the Middle East trying to sell explosive materials and fissile materials to Arab and Middle Eastern terrorists.
And it's really this fanfare. And Jeffrey Robinson, I want to ask you about that. Is there a lot of talk here? Wouldn't it have been much better not to talk about all of this, but to act on some of these bank accounts to see where it led? Now, certainly, people are going to close those accounts or go away from them. Or is that just part of tracking that money trail?
No, that's part of tracking the money trail. First of all, we should have been doing this since 1993. I mean, people knew after the first World Trade Center bombing that there was a problem, that these people had to be funded to do this, irregardless of the money. But you know what it is? I'm not so sure that the freezing of those big bank accounts is really what matters. I think making them move, keeping them off balance. You know, acupuncture. If you take one needle and you stick it into the right part of the body, it may dull that part of the body. It won't affect the whole body, but it'll dull that one. Then you take another needle, and if you put enough needles in, if we cut off enough of these arteries, if you will, where money has flowed, it doesn't matter how much. If you keep them moving and keep them off balance, you'll disrupt the problem of terrorism. Listen, look at the drug cartels. It's very simple. Like any global business, the drug cartels need reinvestment and cash flow. Global terrorist organizations frequently run in parallel to organized crime. They are frequently the same organization. They act the same way. They move their money the same way. If you can cut off cash flow and reinvestment, you can bankrupt the bastards. And if you do that, you take the product off the streets. In this case, it's terror.
So you never know who you're going to meet at these meetings, right? You watch. This joke will be on the next campaign swing. Mark my words. I wish I could be funny about transnational organized crime, but it is a decidedly unfunny subject, because transnational crime is a decidedly unfunny business. Now, yesterday, John Ashcroft stood here and he told you what he's going to do about money laundering. And he did have a point about bundled cash. But if you believe the rest of what he said, I happen to own a bridge in Brooklyn that I would like to sell you. The reason he spoke nonsense is because he doesn't understand your problems. He's never come to you and said, tell me what you need. He does not understand the problems. What he does understand is his problem, which is not to step on the wrong toes. He mentioned one word yesterday. He used the word bankers. But he never used the word that the mayor used just now, lawyers. And I happen to know for a fact that he was speaking to the American Bar Association across town, because they're here now. And I can tell you, I guarantee to you, that when he spoke to the ABA, he never once used the words money laundering. Those would have been the wrong toes to step on. It is a typical example, as the mayor said, of congressmen, of senators, of members of parliament, of presidents and prime ministers, to think short term, to think about body counts, to come to you and say, how many people have you locked up today? How much drugs have you taken off the streets? Let's get a picture of all those drugs piled up and say, see that? We've hit them. We've done damage today. We've arrested 17 people. We've got a good body count. The day it changes is the day that John Ashcroft comes to you and says, okay, you tell me what laws you need. You tell me how much money you need. You tell me what else you need, and I'll get it to you, because you know how to do the job. Don't hold your breath.